and you can see the growth coming. You can see, like the spikes, and the additional interest, that you have, and the exposure that's going on. You can see that coming. Plus, you kind of get a sense for it too, and your numbers should be showing it too. But anyhow, you've already got the things built. You've already got, you've identified your values, so you know what you're looking for in hires. You've identified, what your purpose is and what your brand is all about. So you've got the core essentials for your business already dialed in, and you've got your marketing systems, your sales systems already all roughed out. So when it comes time, that the hire becomes very easy. Well, a lot easier. I don't know if there's any such thing as a really easy hire. I mean, talking about hiring to keep somebody, but you got those core things in place. So it's much better to do it even before you need it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Creative Collaboration Show with Chuck Anderson. This is the show where we inspire entrepreneurs and business owners to grow and scale their business by looking for ways to collaborate, to partner, to bring in missing pieces of the puzzle that could be the key to overcoming obstacles in your business and that key to scalability and reaching all of your business goals. And we like to bring on guests who we think are good people for you to, first of all, know about because they are masters at the things that they do. Also, we think they're just darn good people to collaborate with as well. And today's guest is definitely one of those people. Today, I have Chris Goegan with me here today. Chris, welcome.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks for having me here.
And I know that this has been a long time coming. We've had a couple of conversations now and was like, yeah, let's have you on the show. And finally, the stars have aligned and here we are.
Perfect. Yeah, excited to be here. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share.
Well, likewise, and I'm really looking forward to what you have to share. I'm always
Yes, me too.
fascinated when you and I meet up. You and I are in a mastermind group together, and when you share the things that you do, especially for businesses that are on a growth path, they hear the things all the time: systems and scalability and delegation and automation and all the things. But
You're
how
talking
do
my
you
love
put that
language.
together in a way that works? And that's kind of what you do. But and that's my understanding of what you do, but I'm gonna let you share with everybody, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Well, when you started off saying like, about like entrepreneurs, it's like I laughed because I just had this flashback because it's like I think I was like, um, least likely entrepreneur. So like I remember I'd helped a friend get a job at this one company, large medical device company, and I interviewed for it, and I made it through all the interviews, and then I got kicked out at the end because I had to take a standardized Gallup test, and the test came back and said I'm not cut out for sales, and definitely not cut out for having a business. And yet here I am. I have a business. I'm good at sales, and and here we are talking about entrepreneurship. So my name is I'm Chris Goegan. I'm originally from Canada. I live in California. The winter is a little bit nicer out here, so you might hear me say like an A or an holy smokes or something out and about, something like that. You're a fellow Canuck, so I enjoy talking with other Canucks. I'm married. Naomi, we married for be 24 years this year. We got 4 kids and a dog, Black Lab Scout. Let's see, like go for walks on the beach, play hockey, do anything outdoors. Is there any other stuff that about who I am or?
No, but I loved how you worked in that stereotypical Canadian pronunciation of certain words. And being a West Coaster, I don't have quite the same the same pronunciation as maybe people from Ontario or Quebec have. But yeah, definitely when people think of Canada, they think of what? Hockey, Canadian bacon, and a boot.
Yeah, and I fit those stereotypes pretty well. Yeah, my friends out here in Southern California, they refer to me as the Canadian. So But yeah, and you talk about systems. So like my background was my degree is in mechanical engineering with a minor in electrical engineering business, and I built high volume manufacturing lines for Ford Motor Company. So I get thrown into the worst area of the plant and said, Chris, go make it better, or you're fired. So I was the first engineer that they'd hired in gosh, over a decade. And here I was in this is the late 80s, early 90s, and Ford was turning their quality around. And I was like barely in my 20s, and I had a $30 million personal budget, so a ton of responsibility. And it was great because it's like, that's where I really like systems really grabbed hold of me, because I would have to go into the area of the plant, the worst area of the plant, find all the problems, prioritize them all, put measurements in place, and put dashboards in place. I had no idea how much that would help me, like a few decades later, like doing what I'm doing now. So from engineering, and then I moved to California. I've designed parts for the International Space Station program, Real World Hunt for Red October submarine, bunch of other stuff. Got into sales, was awful at it when I got into it. Banged out over 100,000 cold calls. Hi, want to buy my stuff? It's like, it was miserable. I hated cold calling. I think I had 3 calls that I actually liked. The rest were miserable. But eventually, I had some very good mentors that came along and helped me out, taught me, and eventually became very good at that. Got into marketing. I was going to buy a direct mail franchise. And so I went to work there, and then learned direct mail, did a ton of direct mail. And then someone said, Chris, why would you spend 400 grand on a franchise? I said, well, why not just go off on your own? So I did. And started a consulting business, and this thing called the internet came along, and then Google Ads and SEO and stuff like that came along. So I learned those platforms, did what an engineer would do. I took it apart, did 2-mile deep dive onto it, figured out how everything worked, put it back together again, and just ran programs. Other platforms came out, Facebook, LinkedIn, all these different platforms, and then So I just developed like systems for how to deal with those platforms. But really the bigger thing is understanding how these traffic platforms work, understanding human psychology, how people buy, why people buy, and how they buy online. And then I put together just systems for growing and scaling businesses. And that's what I do. I grow and scale businesses, whether people are looking to get to 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, looking to crack 7 figures, or go from 7 figures to 10, 20, 50 plus million. Help clients do all of those. So It's a long-winded background.
Yeah, well, I love that background, and I love what you just said there about those transitions to all those different business stages and business levels in terms of growth. And there's a lot of challenges that come along with going from one business stage to another when we're trying to transition from 6 to 7 figures, or 7 to 8, or 8 to 9. You usually don't get there by what got you here. And so it's not just about making the numbers bigger, but the systems and the teams and the automation and all of the parts of the process need to change to help to get you to that next level. I know that's something that you and I have talked about before, but maybe speak to that a little bit, because these transitions from one business stage to another are not that easy, especially when you go from solo entrepreneur to having a team and then growing that team and all of the above there.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And then because stuck in old ways will really destroy and stunt your growth. Like I remember when I was an engineer before, we used to give a lot of work to this company called AFM. And these guys are craftsmen. They were really good at what they do. They were mold makers. Very, very talented. And I remember asking my engineering manager, it's like, what does AFM stand for? And he smiled and he said, anything for money. And I started laughing. I'm like, and he could tell by the scrunched look of my head. And head turned side. He's like, what? He goes, yeah, when they first started, they'd come and they would knock on the door and they'd say, you have any work? He goes, and I'd ask them, like, well, what do you do? And they said, we'll do anything for money. And I love that, because it's like, when you're starting off a business, when you're startup mode and, getting to 6 figures, you're in AFM mode. You'll do anything for money. You say yes to everything and everyone, because you need cash flow. and you're still trying to figure out, you're like a newborn, like colt, you know, it comes out, its legs are shaky. You're trying to figure out like who you are, who you want to be in the marketplace. Now you may have an idea, but it's going to take time to figure that out. So you say yes to everything and anything. And then once something happens, though, once you cross into six figures and you're into like multiple six figures, then that will hurt you. That will kill you, because you have to say yes to less. Yeah, you have to step back. You have to simplify. You have to start saying no and figuring out all the things. Hey, I really like this. I really like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. I love this. And those things that you love, those are the things that you dial in on. And that becomes your unique positioning, your unique stance, your unique brand, your stand in the marketplace. It becomes all these things. So it's like, it's a hard change for people to like let go of the things that got them there. And then the harder change is even once you have some more money, you know, you're multiple six figures, you want to start going after seven figures, or maybe you're at seven, you want to like go multiple seven, you start want to bringing on team players. Well, the hardest thing is there's two bad things that usually happen. One is people abdicate, meaning I don't want to figure this thing out. Like on the marketing, for example, like, hey, I don't want to figure out marketing, so I'll hire an agency, or I'll hire somebody to do the marketing because I don't want to figure it out. You figure it out. You know, well, that can be disastrous, because especially a lot of times if you're like some companies, you get a senior level rep will pitch you, and a junior level person with 6 months experience is doing all your positioning, all your marketing, everything for you, and that's not going to end good. The second part that's really hurtful for business owners is they just can't let go of control. They don't want to let go. They think, if I'm not the one doing it, it's easy. You know what? Instead of explaining to somebody, if I just do it myself, it's easier. We'll be able to, I'll just get it done faster. It's just easier. I'll just do it myself. But if you can't let go of that control, you'll never grow, because you'll go insane. Because there's nothing more maddening than a lack of growth, or maybe a lack of sustained growth, but lack of growth with no systems. Because then you've got more problems, you got more clients, you got more sales calls, you got more people banging on your door, you have less time than you already have right now, if you can imagine that, right? So it's like a different level, different devil.
Mm-hmm. You know, as we talk about business growth, I've had two different experiences, you know, as myself as a business coach, and maybe you could weigh in on this and help guide one way or the other. But there's the ones that are proactive, going, okay, I'm in a growth stage. I need to start thinking about some of these things and putting different things in place. And then there's the ones that are more reactive. That's like, oh shit, we've grown, and the stuff that got us here is getting us there, and things are really, really, really broken. I know for myself, I tend to get people more in the reactive stage than the proactive stage. What are you noticing? Love the Canada mug, by the way. That's why they call you the Canadian.
Right.
So, but what are you noticing there in terms of, you know, when is the right time to start thinking about this, and you know, being proactive versus reactive with the growth?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Chuck. And it's a lot of people tend to be more reactive than proactive, and people that tend to be proactive, they're proactive too soon. You know, so it's like there's just like people just make mistakes a lot, and that's fine. It's people who are proactive. Obviously, it's better to see growth coming, and then start preparing for it. People who are proactive, they'll tend to hire people too soon and don't have work for them. And then what they do is then they'll scramble to get work to try to keep them busy, but then they've taken their eye off the prize, or taken the eye off where, you know, where they're going. People who are reactive, they're like, holy crap, the house is burning. Now what do we do? And then so they scramble, they hire the first good person, or the systems that they put in place. The first thing that looks good, smells good, must be good, right? And so they hire that person, or buy the software. This is going to solve everything, but it causes even more problems. You know, what I found is that like when we work with people, I have what I call the core growth systems. And when you're starting off, it's like we build these core growth systems, and it's like, so you're neither proactive or you're neither proactive nor reactive. Did I say that right? I wasn't very good in English, you know, like growing up, my high school English teacher said, "Man, Goegan can't spell worth a damn, but man, what a hockey player." But it's a Canadian stereotype there,
Well, they
right?
said that about me as well, except for the great hockey player part. I was okay, but not great.
Yeah, I figure that's why they have spell check. It's to get you close enough, right? Spell and
That's
grammar check.
right.
But anyhow, so it's like what I do with people we work with, it's like, you know what? Let's build these core growth systems. And so we're neither being proactive nor reactive. We're being, I guess if we had to choose, I guess we're being more proactive on it. But we're building these systems before you need them. So by time, and you can see the growth coming. You can see, like the spikes and the additional interest that you have, and the exposure that's going on. You can see that coming. Plus, you kind of get a sense for it too, and your numbers should be showing it too. But anyhow, you've already got the things built. You've already got, you've identified your values, so you know what you're looking for in hires. You've identified what your purpose is and what your brand is all about. So you've got the core essentials for your business already dialed in, and you've got your marketing systems, your sales systems already all roughed out. So when it comes time, that the hire becomes very easy. Well, a lot easier. I don't know if there's any such thing as a really easy hire. I mean, talking about hiring to keep somebody, but you got those core things in place. So it's much better to do it even before you need it. But see, I work with businesses that they want to grow. They've got something inside of them that's so good, they want to bring it out to the world, and they want to grow. They want to bring this out good. So it's not like a little hobby kind of thing. So it's like, well, if we're going to build it, let's build this foundation, and then we're just going to build everything on top of that foundation. So.
Yeah, I think that is really well said. And one of the takeaways that I took from you just saying is that you can predict growth. You can see that you're growing. And I think the proactive approach is, hey, I know that we're growing. Let's do something about that so that we know that we're ready to handle that growth, versus, hey, we're growing and we've grown and we're not handling it all that well. And so it's really two ways to look at it. One would think that being proactive is better, but like I said, I've had many conversations with people that are more reactive. It's like, we need a solution to this because this thing in our business is clearly broken and not working, and isn't going to be sustainable.
Yeah, and it's just like those, like, why not work on those things before? Like, because a lot of people, what they don't do, and forgive me if I'm taking us off on a tangent, but like for example, something so simple as like their lead closing system, their sales system. Like, you should be developing that right from the get-go. Instead, most people with their selling system, they'll just hop on calls and close sales without any rhyme or reason or methodology to it. It's like, no, it's like develop your lead closing system right now, like right from the get-go, right from day one. So you've got it dialed in. Hey, this is how I do it here. There's a call one, maybe there's a call two, and then this happens and that happens. So have that all in place. So when things grow, well, you've already got that part of your business all laid out, all structured out. So it becomes really easy to hire somebody very quickly and train them. Hey, this is how we do it, rather than having them reinvent the wheel and try to figure it out on their own, or try to replicate what you do. It's like, no, you develop the system for it, and then you can just hire somebody to fill it out. Mm-hmm. So
I like sales as the example, because I just spoke with someone last week who's on a sales trainer. We talked about process and whatnot. Now, a lot of founders can sell. It's their vision, it's their baby. They can sell it because it's in here and it's in here, right? And then when it comes time to hire someone to sell for you, are you going to just put them on calls and say, hey, go sell this thing? Or how are you going to train them? How are you going to take what's here and here and give it to them to then be able to duplicate yourself? And, you and I have talked about before, like how founders are very involved, and then, they want to create systems where they can become less involved, and then eventually to the point where they don't need to be involved at all in order for that system to run. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit as well.
Yes. So it's like with the founder, my question for you is like, do you want to do what you're doing forever? Like yourself? Do you want to be the magic all the time? all the time, never taking a break ever. You know, and and it's like I'd give a pregnant pause on that, but it's like, but you got to let that thought like germinate for a minute, or do you want to build a business? Um, my good friend Michael Gerber, he would say, well, Chris, most people don't have businesses. They've got really crummy paying jobs. So if the business is just you, that's fine. But do you want it to be, Michael Gerber's words, a crummy paying job, or do you want to build a business that works for you? Well, and so as soon as you see the distinction between the two, then all of a sudden you start looking at things differently. So it's like, okay, well, if I want a business, meaning I don't have to be the magic all the time. So I mean, so a sales process. Well, how would I train somebody to do that? How do I do that? And it becomes pretty easy to start taking like what the founder does and dissect that really quickly. Is it a one call close? Is it a multi close? Do you have a 15-minute call that leads to an hour call or a half an hour call? Or do you have like setting up a set process? And what's the purpose of each step? What's the purpose of this step? What's the purpose of the next step? What's the purpose of the next step? Now, the purpose of each step is to move them along, but every purpose, there's something you want to accomplish in each thing. And so when you sit down with a founder, even ones that just intuitively know what to say and do to close sales, well, if they don't want to get out of that, then there's nothing that will do. But if they want to get out of that, then we have this conversation, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, no, it's like, you know what, Chris, the very first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that they're qualified. So, okay, well, how do you do that? And this is how I do it. So, okay, well, why don't we make that the first step, the qualification process? Okay, yeah. And then they get really invested in it, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I see that. So like my days as an engineer, we had assembly lines, and something would happen in the first step, and then it would move on to the second step, something would happen there, and then move on to the next step, something else would happen there. So I kind of look at marketing and sales as like that. It's like an assembly line of sales. So something happens at each step, and then you've got a specific intent. You do everything with specific intent, specific purpose. So the purpose of that first step is to lead them to the next step, and you also want to disqualify people who aren't qualified, and then be able to measure every single step on there, so you can establish your baseline metrics. So when you hire somebody, you'll be able to see their metrics, and you'll be able to say, okay, gosh, it's like yeah, Charlie's got 10 leads, and he had three presentations and 3 closes. Well, Susan had 10 leads, 0 presentations, and 0 closes. Okay, well, what's Susan doing? There's something Susan's doing that's not so right. Charlie's got the close going on. Maybe we can help Charlie with the 10 leads to 3 presentations. Maybe we can make that 10 to 6. So what can we do there to tighten that up and improve that? And so when you start breaking things down into steps and processes, one, it's going to free you up. It's going to pull you up from having to do everything yourself. Second of all, it's going to allow you to manage people so much easier and so much better. And you're going to get such better results, because there's tremendous opportunity in any business to really like multiply the results. I had somebody like going through one of my programs, and we took apart their sales process, and they posted their numbers that they gave to me. They posted a 14.6x, so 14.6 times improvement on the number of sales coming in, because we re-engineered their process, and they had a great closing ratio going in already. So 14 times, almost 15 times more sales just by changing this process and re-engineering it. So
that was a great explanation. I just think that made it really, really clear, not only the value of mapping out those processes, taking it from here and actually, okay, what are the steps? Yep. But also a great demonstration of the value that you bring to businesses and how you can help. Because when we're sitting here unpacking it, I think it's really easy for a founder or a CEO or an entrepreneur just to go, yeah, okay, I can do that. But when it really comes down to the execution, very rarely are we that proactive where we're sitting down and mapping it out. It takes collaborating with someone like yourself to really to really get that done. And, you know, of course, the theme of our show is creative collaboration. You bring a lot of creativity to the table, and you're a great guy to collaborate with, which is why I invited you to this show, because this is, even though sometimes it can be a little challenging to get our head around the systems and the automation and all the steps, and it's not something that's at the top of our priority list as founders. It is something that is so vital, especially when we want to move away from solo entrepreneur to business owner to a business that runs and functions without you. And Chris, that's exactly what you do, which is a great I think not only resource, but for anyone listening in right now who is at that stage in their business where you've tried some of these things. Maybe you've tried delegating, maybe you've tried hiring, maybe some of your systems really aren't working the way you originally intended. You might want to reach out to Chris, and if you're watching this on video, I'm going to have all his links there beneath this video, and on podcast, it's in the podcast show notes. Just click on your phone there and all his links are right there. And do reach out to Chris. And I think have the conversation, because he's, as you can see, he understands this. He's got that engineering mind. And as someone who used to work in an engineering department, I'm not a diplomaed engineer, but I worked in engineering for a very long time. I get the logical, the step-by-step process is just so important. And there are steps, even though like we think we're doing things instinctively, there are still steps and there's still processes that we are following to do these things. So
yeah, and that becomes extremely important if you want to do things at scale. Like if you want to grow things really big, then it becomes, you got to have that. The entrepreneurials will get you off the ground and get you cooking. But man, if you want to hit that new level, and it's fun doing that, want to hit that new level, then you got to engineer your systems, your processes on from the marketing right through, from the first touch, that first 1 second of attention that they give you, amplify that attention every step along until they're a client and buy. And here's something about systems that most people, when I talk about systems, they picture like a 4-inch book that it goes thud, and of these documented processes that nobody will ever read and nobody will ever follow. They're far from that. In fact, when people see like systems, my definition of systems, they're really shocked at how really simple they are. And so anyhow, I don't want people to get scared when they hear the word systems. It's actually a lot easier than most people think. So.
Well, and the easiest thing to do is to connect with you and have a conversation about it. Sometimes just talking this through with somebody is that next step in clarity. So highly recommend that people do that. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I mean, this has been really, really great and valuable. We could probably talk about these things all day long. There's a lot to unpack here, but I think at a high level, this has been a very valuable session. Before we bring this episode to a close, I just want to ask you something, because, as one business owner to another, we're on our own growth journey. We're on our own growth path. For me, books have played such a big role in that growth and just bringing in all the information for not only my business, but for myself as well. And so I like to ask all my guests here, because I'm just fascinated by the answers that have been coming from this question. And that is, if you had to recommend just one, maybe two, books that are must-read books that have been, vital to your growth or really important to you, what do you recommend?
Yeah, great question. Because I've got a bookshelf. Like I've read a lot of books over the years. And I got a bookshelf where it's like, these are the books for my kids to read. Like from all these are the ones that daddy would recommend, to save you years, and like right at the front of those, like the top ones on there is my good friend Michael Gerber, the E-Myth Revisited. That Michael is known as the small business guru, and the systems guy. And which is flattering when he reached out to ask me to help him, like build systems for his business. So, but anyhow, that book is phenomenal. Like if you haven't read that, I think it's like #1 best-selling business book of all time. It's like top 10 books that billionaires read. It's everyone who's ever built a business credits it back to that. Not everyone, but most people. So that one, and then the second one is this really fun read. It's called Sell, Little Red Hen, Sell, by Jeffrey Hansler. That if you want to know like what makes people tick, that book is phenomenal. It's a short read. It picks up the story of the little red hen, who baked pies, and if you didn't help baking the pies, then you're not going to get any. That book was about work ethic. This book was about how Little Red Hen had to learn how to sell, and it talks about like personalities. It talks about probably the biggest thing that has ever helped me in sales, is most eye-opening, especially in marketing too, is values. Understanding the values. And I'm not talking about the way values people traditionally think about values, but it's if you want to understand people, that's the best book. If I could throw a third one in there, it'd be Why People Buy by Guy Baker. So.
Wow. Well, we're going to add those to our growing list of books that have not been recommended by other guests. I mean, the E-Myth was one that I encountered very early in my journey. I didn't really internalize it and absorb it as quickly as I maybe should have. I had to learn the hard way, even though Michael does warn you in the book. But the other two, and we were talking about this before, you're right, I never heard of either of those before, so I'm definitely going to check those out. For everyone listening, the links to those books are all here beneath this video and in the podcast show notes page as well, so you can connect with any of those books. All of Chris's contact information is there. I think the next logical step is if this has resonated with you and you're at a stage in your business where you're ready for growth or scale, or you've been there and maybe things are broken a little bit or seem broken, I think a conversation with Chris is a logical next step. All of his links are there. So with that, I want to thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared with our audience here today, and to our audience, thank you. I think this is hopefully time well spent for you, and don't let this be for nothing. Make sure you have a next step. Connecting with Chris might very well be that next step for you. Chris, if you were to leave our audience with just one final piece of advice or words of wisdom, what would you say to them?
Yeah, good question. I would say it's good to every now and then step back from your business and take inventory. Just just step back and look at, hey, you know what? If I keep doing what I'm doing right now, I'm going to get to where I want to go. Look at your vision and look at what you're doing and see if you're on track. If you are, great. If you're not, then you might want to rethink a different approach, different strategy. Because like you mentioned earlier, Chuck, every level to get to the next level, you got to discard some things and pick up some new things to grow to that next level. So that's it.
Fantastic. And great words to end this episode by. So Chris, thank you. To our audience, thank you as well. Keep moving forward. Keep working on your big dream, your big mission in your business. And if things are broken, there are great people to collaborate with. If you're looking for a missing piece of your puzzle, again, great people to collaborate with. Chris is definitely one of those people. So do reach out to him. And in the meantime, keep moving forward. We'll see you back here on another episode of the Creative Collaboration Show. And until next time, this is Chuck Anderson saying, keep moving forward and be awesome, everybody.